and welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us. This week's episode is brought to you by Casey's Confectionery Delights, introducing their newest flavor just in time for Halloween, Razorberry. To check out Casey's full menu of wonderful confectionery delights, look them up at razorberry.com. And this week, we're discussing Nia Acosta's sequel to the 1992 classic, Candyman, starring Yahya Abdul-Mateen and Tiana Paris. Taking place in present-day Chicago in a newly gentrified neighborhood that was once the home of the original Candyman, Anthony, played by Mateen, and his girlfriend Brianna, played by Paris, move into a loft that was once in the heart of the Capri Green projects. After being exposed to Candyman, Anthony, with his curiosity piqued, sets out to explore the neighborhood and discover more. While on his venture, he runs into someone who tells him the truth about Candyman, unleashing a wave of creativity and quite possibly Candyman himself. Tammy, were you scared?
No, I was creeped out. And there's a difference. There's a difference between being scared for your life and like something just being really creepy. Like it just messes with your head rather than, I'm running outside real quick, jumping in my car and I'm moving ASAP. So I was definitely creeped out. It definitely gave me the same creeped out feeling that I had off of the first Candyman. But I do think that it was it was kind of based on how the Candyman, the first one was really, really creepy. So yeah, I was just real creeped out. Like I'm not going to be going into a bathroom and looking at a mirror and saying his name 5 times. Like, definitely not doing that ever. Nah. Mm-mm. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I remember reading that it was scary, and that was one of my things. I don't generally I like horror movies. I just don't like watching them by myself. And as a single woman, that kind of, keeps them off of my list. But so this one I had read, it's been getting great buzz since last year, and when it was supposed to be released. And Jordan Peele and Monkey Paw Productions produced it. And knowing what you just said about the original Candyman, I was like, yeah. And then I read some of the reviews or highlights, and they were like, it's really scary. One of the scariest movies of the year. So I was like, oh, okay. So we decided to see it together since we heard the same thing. And then you remember what happened the first 5 minutes into the movie? The lights were still on. And I thought,
oh yeah. And you were like, are they on because is that scary? So they gotta keep the lights on.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh shit, this really is that scary. But I'm with you. It was more creepy, and it wasn't scary in the sense of Halloween Jason back in the 70s that kind of have you jumping out of your seat scary. But this one, I think, gives you more of a mind fuck, especially when you think about the topic, when it talks about all the things that are happening. Gentrification, that's the part that scared me. It's the reality of this kind of stuff, and just the history that they were talking about of the various Candyman or Candymen, his history. So that's what I thought. But I agree with you. It definitely was just kind of creepy, and to see him unravel the way he did, that was creepy. So. But I do kind of wish. Do you wish it would have been more scary in the traditional sense?
No, because the first one also had the same feel to me. Like, granted, I was a kid when I watched the first Candyman. Well, I think it's 2 previous Candymans.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a kid when I watched the first 2. So of course, as a kid, I'm gonna say it was scary, but as an adult, I realized it was the creep factor. Like, it was creepy because, like you said, it's a mind fuck. And so even as a kid, you're scared because you're just like, what the fuck is this? But so I like the original on, it wasn't scary, it was creepy. And this one definitely matched it. So, it was the same thing. Because like I said, I'm not going into a bathroom, turning the lights off and saying his name in a mirror. Like, that lets you know that it had the effect that they wanted to have. I'm not doing it. I'm not one of those people. Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, like if I'm not mistaken, I think like Candyman in some way is based on a true story. Like there was something that happened in the 70s in Caprini Green based around that story, if I'm not mistaken. So in that sense, it's based on a true story, and just some creep hanging out in the projects, um, sticking razor blades and kids' candy and killing kids. That's just scary on a whole nother level and creepy on a whole nother level. But the way they took it and interweaved the story, um, that was something. I guess part of me does wish it was a little bit more scary in the traditional sense, but like you said, the creep factor, and just from her standpoint, Brianna, when watching him unravel, that to me would have been like, what the fuck? But she really didn't seem to notice until it was too late that there was something truly, truly wrong with him. Did you get that sense? Like,
I feel like it wasn't until she went into his studio.
yeah.
It wasn't until she went into his studio that she really noticed how much he was unraveling, like how much like he was completely lost, and even him realizing how much he was completely lost. But before that, it was kind of she shrugged off like his warnings, and she shrugged off his thought process that he had going, and what he wanted to talk about. It was just kind of like, okay, like you're an artist, like you're a struggling artist, so this is what we're talking about. But yeah, like, but when you saw that studio, I said, ooh, girl, he gone, he gone, he gone.
Yeah, like yeah, because I'm with you. I'm not summoning Candyman. Although I think, what was it? You let me get close. I was just doing it to see if you were gonna stop me. I'm like, she's not gonna stop me.
Heck no, heck no. But I will not be there with you.
But I wasn't doing it in front of a mirror, so I don't know if it would have worked. And honestly, I'm not
We
one
not
to.
testing that.
I'm
Don't
not
test that,
testing it.
Eddie.
Look, I'm like the Asian chick in the movie. Nah, fuck that. I'm out. Like it was. They got the 3 or 4 before she was like, "Oh, these bitches for real, about to do this shit." Nah, I'm out. She's like, "I'm not about this life." It's
Not at
like,
all.
my mom always tell me, somebody got to live to tell the tale. So,
I mean, the black girl lives, but they didn't know she was there, though.
yeah, she was too high, too drunk to know anything that happened, and that probably did not help the case of getting her sober after this. Um, but so I loved the social justice issues that were interwoven in the movie, and I always tell people talk about I love Chicago. It's one of my favorite cities. It's close to my hometown, so I have a special affinity in my heart for the city of Chicago, and I think it gets a bad rap because of the crime there. And when people talk about it, I'm like, y'all need to don't just talk about the crime in Chicago, but you need to get to the underlying issues of what happened to make it so bad. And I tell people, Chicago is a case study in gentrification. Um, and it starts with when they tore down the Caprini Green projects. It's like you displaced all these people. You basically kicked them out of their homes, and where did you expect them to go? So that to me was really interesting, and so I thought gentrification was just one of the boogeymen in the story, uh, you know. Um, but yeah, so that was my social justice tip. What did?
See, and the thing is, it's like I feel gentrification would work if it was for the people who were there, right? In order to make a community better, because we look at it as in when an area is gentrified. Is that's the word? That's how you say it,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So when an area is gentrified, what we automatically think is how you are making it better is you're just bringing in white people, like you're bringing in white people and you bring in the rich, right? So then you just push the poor out because you think that's the only thing that's going to solve it. But then they have to go somewhere, like you said. So they just go to an even worse area and the process starts again. But if you actually build up a community, for the people in that community, then it would work. It would work if it was affordable housing for the people who live in that community, creating jobs for the people that live in that community, not to welcome in other people because you feel the people that are already there. You know what? Let me get off my soapbox. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, no, you are on the right. I mean, it turns into something else. We're going to get back to it, but that was, and the reason why we're talking about is because that was actually one of the themes in the movie. That is
Yeah,
what
that
they
was a
talked
theme.
about,
Yeah.
and you're absolutely correct. And I think there's this place in the Bronx. They did that to one of the biggest housing projects in the Bronx. They rebuilt it. They didn't just give it a facelift. Like, they literally rebuilt it, modernized it, put in walking paths, put in gardens, made it look like it was one of those nice high-rise apartments in New York City, and it kept it for the people who live there. Like, I don't have a problem with you cleaning up a neighborhood, but bring in all sorts of people, but leave it affordable for the people who already live there. Make it nice for the people who are live there. Don't make it nice and then kick them out, outprice them out of their home. So I really understood that. And that I've always, like, I think ever since we've met, I've been on this soapbox about gentrification. So it just that is one of my it just drives me crazy. So that to me was one of the boogeymans, and I thought it was a fresh take. It was a cool way to weave it in there, and it kind of explained the myth of the Candyman, like that it wasn't just one person. Like, the history of Candyman was always was he lived on through all these Black men who have been wronged throughout history in some way, shape, or form. So I thought that was really interesting. Didn't justify the crazy murderous psychopathy, but it was like, oh, it kind of made it make a little bit more sense.
Ain't nobody tell them to go into the bathroom and say the name 5 times in the mirror. Ain't nobody tell y'all to go and do that. So, I mean, if you were murdered, you are at fault. You should have kept your mouth closed.
They should have. Now, did the art lady, the art critic,
She did it.
She did it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did we see her do it, or it was
We
just
didn't see her do it, but it's the assumption of her going
being in the
into the
bathroom?
bathroom, closing the door after he basically dared her to do it. And then her ending up dying, let you know that she ultimately did it. She fell for the dare. And that's
Okay.
why I don't do dares. I do truths, y'all. Be like, truth or dare. I said it's truth every time. So let's go. Let's go. I tell my whole business before I do a dare, y'all.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so was he and that's what I was wondering. Like, it alluded to her doing it, and then it's like she fell for the okey doke because he was already pissed off, or a little upset with her about her critique, or her takedown of his work, and him moving back into the neighborhood that he had been born into, although he didn't know it at the time. um Under the whole gentrification, and you calling him out on some, what artistic double standards should we call them, or artistic hypocrisies. um so
Hypocrisies, I think it was.
yeah, so she when she called him out on that, but then his work, like, people, I guess it's true, people love that tragic artist, because after Candyman, the first set of Candyman murders, which was took place in the gallery, his girlfriend's, was that her boss or her partner?
That was her boss.
Okay,
Like, he
so
was in charge of the gallery.
Okay, yeah. So after the gallery owner or manager, or whatever, and his hookup were murdered in the gallery right next to his work, Anthony's work, which showcased Candyman, it kind of all took off. Like, his art, the thing that no one understood, and the thing that people were ragging on all of a sudden became the talk of the town because it was associated with these murders. So, and then all of a sudden she kind of changed her tune, or her tune about what she had to say about her work, and she invited him to her apartment, which I thought was weird. Like, why are you inviting him to your apartment? But and then she met Candyman for real. So I was like, yeah. Um, what did you think about the casting?
I mean, it was fine. It was fine. Like, it was a whole bunch of no names. I mean, you know who some of them are, but ultimately they're not big names in the business. Um, so it was a whole bunch of no names, which I appreciated that it was a bunch of no names. I don't feel that they should have had like big names in the cast. They did a good job. They did a good job.
Well, yeah, they're up and coming names. You know, Tiana Paris is in Captain
Up
Marvel.
and coming ain't big, Eddie.
Hey, I'm just saying they are bigger names. They're Yaya is his star is rising. So
I
um
didn't know who he was.
with his fine, because you didn't watch the Watchmen. He was in the Watchmen.
I saw
Um
the first episode. I know who he is in the like. But like he can be up and coming, but he's not like a known name. When people see his name, they're not automatically like, "Yo, I know, yo, he good, he good." Like most people aren't gonna think that because he's not a big name yet. He may be up and coming, but he's not a big name. So I was like, I appreciate the fact that it wasn't big names where as soon as you see it, it wasn't like, and you know, this is going way extreme, but it's not like Will Smith or Denzel Washington where you be like, "Oh shoot," like where they just basically you're automatically thinking like they're carrying the whole movie. Like, no, everybody played their role in this film because nobody was bigger than anyone else in this film.
that's true. And originally when it was made, and when it was supposed to come out, I think it was supposed to come out before WandaVision, which is when we were introduced to Tiana Paris, like truly, where she had a starring role or a headlining role. And then it would have come out after The Watchmen, but still, you know, so I agree with that. I liked the casting. I thought the casting was great. I'm with you. I think they all did a really good job. Who was your favorite character?
Her brother.
We agree on something. I loved her brother. Her brother was amazing.
He was awesome. He was awesome. Like every time he was on the screen, I said, I'm about to laugh. I'm about to laugh. Like he about to have me shaking my head like, oh Lord, there he go again.
And there he goes again, but he had the most, how do I say this? He had the most effective way of dropping truth bombs where you're laughing, but it's like, damn, he just spilled a whole bunch of truth. Like he just
Mm-hmm.
covered everyone in truth. And I love that. Um I also liked what did you think about the connection between how they connected this to the original Candyman?
What do you mean?
Like how the relationship or the connection between Yaya, or not Yaya, I'm calling him by his real name, but the connection between Anthony and the original Candyman. Like,
But he wasn't the original Candyman.
well, I'll say back to the 1992 Candyman, to the original,
Okay,
to
okay,
the
that's what I'm
original
saying. Like,
Candyman, yeah, to the original Candyman movie, which for us would be, you know, the original Candyman. So,
oh, okay. I was like, the original Candyman was like the 1800s, but
yeah, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I kind of felt like it was a little bit of a stupid story. Of how they just kind of like slipped it in that she wasn't really crazy, but she really saved the baby from Candyman, and Candyman wanted him to sacrifice him. And my whole thought process was, why? Like, what was the reason that Candyman needed him to be sacrificed as a baby? I never got that. Did you see an explanation for that?
No, you know what? I didn't either, and I'm going to agree with you. I love that they tried to connect them. I do. I love that. I love the attempt at the connection, but I think they dropped the ball a little bit, and for the same reasons you just said. Like, um, you know, it not that it gave her an easy way out, but I didn't get the connection between him and the kid. Like, I think I asked you, like, is that his son? That's where I thought they were going. You
Yeah.
know, that it's like, okay, well, what made this baby so special? Out of all the babies crying in the projects and competing green at that one point in time, what made this woman And like, I know Vanessa Williams was in the original Candyman. I get that. So it's great to go back to that. I also love that they used the guy who played Candyman in the original again, and they brought him back. So I love those throwbacks. If you want to do that, that's great. That would be a great connection in and of itself. But why, particularly the part where it's like he was the baby that they tried to sacrifice, I didn't understand, like, what was the reason for the sacrifice. So like, was this your son? Were you part of his line? Like, were y'all related? Were you distant relatives? Like, what made this one kid so particularly special? Like, I think it would have made more sense if homeboy, what are we gonna call him, laundry boy?
Oh God, what was his name in the movie? It
um
was William Burke.
Yeah, William. I think it probably would have made more sense if William had grown up to, had repressed trauma or repressed memories. That's where I thought it was going, like, in the beginning. Like, okay, he lived to tell the tale. So now are we going to see where he forgets it or he represses it? Or if he would have been the modern day Candyman, like, if it would have made more of a connection besides him wanting to summon Candyman because of gentrification, like, that to me was like, what?
It was, see, and that's what I'm saying, is that the movie overall served its purpose. But when you actually start to really sit there and analyze the storyline, it didn't make sense. Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, why was he kidnapped as a baby? Why did Candyman want to sacrifice him over all the other babies? Why is it that William Burke felt that he needed to reinvent Candyman with him? Like, it just did not connect the dots. Like, there was too much space between the dots.
Yeah, like,
So,
and
but yeah.
yeah, and like, I think it may have been better if William Burke, like, if something like William Burke was imitating Candyman, and behind the scenes he was the one who's trying to be Candyman, and then Candyman comes back, the real Candyman. Like, there's just and don't get me wrong, Nia Costa did a great job, and I love the fact that it was, she was the first director ever to have the number one movie in the
She did
country.
great directing, but I don't take away from the fact that the story didn't match up.
Exactly. So there are just some holes, and that was like, yeah, that doesn't, like, it never made sense to me. And so I was just like, okay, so William, your role was what, to trigger, and then, like, have you been following him around his whole life? Like, how did you know that this was the kid?
Mm-hmm.
Because when he heard, and when he heard Candyman, like, when he heard the story from her brother, it's like, oh, okay, it was like he was an artist, he was blocked, so his creativity was blocked, so he's like, oh, let me go take some pictures and see if I can trigger something and find something interesting to use for my next art piece. So I get that. Inspiration comes in the weirdest forms and from the weirdest things sometimes. But then, just okay, so when he gets stung by the bee, I'm like, oh, that's gonna start something. Like, I thought that would have been his connection, like the bee sting,
Mm-hmm.
because the bees were a big thing in the first movie. Like, the bees, didn't the bees form whenever Candyman was coming in the first movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so I thought that was a good connection. I'm like, oh, that's the bee. So I understood it from that point, but when you dig deeper and try to make it deeper than that, I was like, okay, they could have done a better job of connecting those dots, because they were all over the place as far as that goes.
I
But
agree.
um now, one thing I have a question. Those two kids, like, in the middle, I guess, the two kids who ended up being victims, what was that about? Like, was that a flashback? Was that modern times? Like, that was
Which
one
one?
more. I guess they were towards the end or the middle end. Like, just the two black kids, and the one kid, him and his sister, they were at home, and then they were fighting, and then all of a sudden his sister goes into the bathroom. I think she's in the bathroom with her friend, and then he just hears,
Oh, they did the Candyman challenge.
oh, okay, so it's like,
Yeah, they did the Candyman challenge, and that's how she ended up dying. When he saw the blood coming from underneath the door, is because they did the Candyman challenge.
oh, okay, so now there was a chance. Okay, damn, TikTok, social media, kids better stop doing all these stupid ass challenges.
You know
Uh,
they ain't going to because they can't think logically.
so okay, because I was like that just seemed random. Like that was one of those things. I'm like, what is this? Is this a flashback? Is this like to me? I don't know. I guess I needed more context for that. Like, why just put two random kids in here, especially if we don't see them actually doing a challenge or if they are not related to any of the characters? Because I thought it might have been a flashback, but I get that. Um, Now one thing I kind of thought was about Brianna's father. Was her father a victim of Candyman?
Yes.
Okay, you got that
Wait,
too.
no. Yeah, and he was psychotic. Like
Y-
he was the ultimate tortured artist, right?
Yeah,
And so I always thought that there was a connection of her father to Candyman. And that's another storyline that got dropped because they don't fully go into detail connecting the dots of how her father connected to that whole thing. But he was also a very, very tortured artist, like an extremely tortured artist. Now, did he get his tortured artist, like, mindset from a whole Candyman situation? I'm gonna, put it out there and say I believe so, but we don't fully know. Like there's no confirmed evidence that that was the case.
yeah, and I agree with you too because I was like I got the sense that he was a victim of Candyman in some way, shape, or form. That's where a lot of his psychosis came from, was that he was one of those who ended up triggering Candyman, or trying to contact him or whatever. Maybe he fought it off, or Candyman led him to kill himself. But I got the sense that Candyman was somehow connected to what happened to her father, and I think that could have been an interesting thread to pull on, one that kind of got dropped. I think that would have been interesting, maybe if they would have developed that a little bit or dug a little bit more deeply into that. Um, but yeah, so oh yeah, it was King and Son. Now, what else did you like about the movie? Was there anything else you liked, disliked?
I like the fact that majority of people who died were white people. So black people and minorities are always dying in the movies. So majority of the people who died in the movie who were stupid enough to do the challenge were white people. And people may say that's wrong, but when you go to movies all the time and you see black people and we always the ones dying, or we making stupid decisions that I swear we would not make in real life, like, yeah, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Cause
Yeah,
I be telling people, I said, look, I'm black and I grew up with Candyman. You ain't catching me in the bathroom doing that nonsense.
did
Mm-mm.
you
Not
do
even
the
when I watched it the first time. I it's hilarious because you had Bloody Mary at the same time, right? And
did,
so I was more likely to do Bloody Mary than Candyman. Like Candyman was not something that you messed with. I don't know why I thought Bloody Mary you could mess with, but I did not mess with Candyman though. Like, not at
be,
all.
because the old look, our old spiritual and ancestral legends, they tend, because they creep us out, because I guess as we're predisposed to that paranoia, and there's like there's just shit black people don't do.
Yeah.
And
And one
so
of them
many.
is you do not call upon Candyman.
Thank
Like,
you.
and you just don't do it.
You don't like, we don't fuck around with the dead and the spirits, like you know like you don't fuck around with the spirits and the dead and all that kind of stuff. We don't summon that shit unless you got the hoodoo, you into all that, and you know how to control what you summon. But just randomly going around doing that stuff, nah. We not investigating random noises, because it, like when Brianna went to the cleaners and she saw that door and she got it open and she looked down there and she's like, oh, she closed it.
Yes, correct.
She was like, no.
I said that would be me.
I was like,
Quickly.
that.
I be standing at the door to go to the back, like, hello? Anybody there?
Yeah.
Hello? Oh,
And
he
you
not
look down
there.
there,
I ain't going in.
and you look down there and you see that, okay, first of all, the laundromat looks creepy anyway. Then you get back in the room and it's like all messy, and you open the door and the light doesn't come on, and in Chicago, And you're from the East Coast, so you know, in the East and Midwest, they have basements and stuff. And in the
Mm-hmm.
older buildings, the basements are creepy and dank. Like I remember my grandmother's basement, it creeped the fuck out of me. Like I would not go down into that basement by myself, even with the lights on. And that's where the washing machine was. And she'd be like, "Go to nah, I can't do it, Granny. I'm good." Like, nah.
Be like, I love you, but not that much, Granny. Not
Yeah,
that much.
she's like, go in the basement. Nah, I'm good. Girl, did you? I take that. That's see, I take that L. That's an ass whooping I take. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna get the belt. Get it. Here, let me go pick the switch.
I'll
And
be
I
like, I'll
guess
name the belt for you.
thank you. Like, which one do you want? Because I'm not going down there. And I believe, like, eventually they got me down there with her. And so we would be down there, and then I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm going back upstairs. Like, so they just stopped trying to send me into the basement because, yeah. So when she looked down there, she's like, oh no. Nah. I was like, yeah, I feel that because I wouldn't have done it either. And normally we don't do shit like that. Like, there's always exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, we some scary motherfuckers. We don't do that shit.
Okay, so I always bring up the concept of, and I'm always telling this to people. I said, look, here's the test if you have the card, okay? If you see somebody running, if you see a black person running down the street, do you pause to ask them why they running? Or do you turn and run with them, and when y'all get a safe distance, then you ask them why y'all was running? It was like, because I'm running. Like,
I'm running. If you ain't out
I'm
there,
not looking to be like, what's going on? What's over there? I'm jetting
thank,
behind you. And when I get close to you, I'll be like, hey, what we running for? Oh, okay, cool. And I'll
thank you.
continue running with you.
If you're not out there in your fancy jogging gear out for a jog, but you in a full out sprint, like, nah, bro. Cause
And you look
usually,
behind you.
yeah, cause usually, they be like running past you. Don't go that way. Like, like, what do you? Nah, you don't ask questions, especially if they want you. Be like, no, go. And you be like, okay. And then you get to where you're going at when you finally stop out of breath. Talking about, yo, what the fuck? Like, nah, I ain't trying to do that. Cause even like with our friends when we were younger, we went out, clubs and shit or wherever. We going someplace with a big crowd. We always had a meeting spot, because in the movies, white people sometimes they'll go try to find their friends and shit. Nah, some shit pop off. This is where you meet. You got 10 minutes to get there, and if you ain't there, I'm leaving your ass.
It ain't no, let me go back in and find them. What?
Nah, it's like if we get separated, this is where we're meeting. So, and usually it was the car because the car was a safe enough distance away. So it's like everybody remember where we parked.
That's just like, no, I'm with you on that. Like, I am with you on that. And that's why, like, one of the greatest things ever invented was cell phones, because I'm texting you, telling you where I am, and bring your behind on so we can go.
Thank you. Like we're like you don't have to worry about looking for me. I'd be like, look, this is where we gonna meet. Like at the car, text you like, nah, bruh, it's not happening. So from that standpoint, yeah. Um, Now at the end, before we wrap this up, like and Brianna, she was also one of those people. Like she was very cautious because she was like, don't you summon Candyman, don't you say it. And he, even after he had become Candyman, which he didn't realize he had become Candyman until the end when he saw his studio, right?
I don't think he realized he became Candyman until he was Candyman.
Until he was Candyman.
Mm-hmm.
But he realized something was wrong. Like, but okay. So speaking of realizations, dude, did she not? This man that she knew every inch of his body. Did she not see that nasty ass scar on his hand?
They weren't having sex.
But it was still on his hand. Like not. It wasn't on his dick. It was on his hand.
You right. But I feel that, okay, so you have to look at when he really started to change, right? And he started to like get like they weren't as close as they were at the very, very beginning of the movie. So I can understand her truly not seeing the full change of what was going on with his body, because like he was in a real tortured artist thing, and they were like, you know, you with your daddy again, like, you know, your daddy was the same way and now look at him. So I don't think they were as close as they were previously. So I can see the plausibility of her not noticing the change of his body.
Okay.
Not to say it makes sense, but I can see it.
When you put it like that, I do, and I understand what you're saying because you're right. We did see the transformation or the evolution of their relationship from the beginning to the middle, where she knew something was wrong, but it's just like, okay, I'm not going through this tortured artist phase, and you're being an asshole and borderline emotionally abusive. So, when she moves out, I get that, but it was just so fucking prominent on his hand, especially when it started peeling and stuff. And I'm just like, oh. So I was just like, so I guess when you're not paying attention to those types of things, you're done. Like when you're oblivious to shit like that, it's like, oh yeah, she was done. But so she was really, really cautious about channeling Candyman all the way until the end. Um, So do you think he didn't kill her because he recognized her, or
He didn't kill her because it wasn't his purpose to kill her.
okay.
She wasn't like, the purpose of Candyman is to kill people who are abusing the Black community. Like that's ultimately the purpose of Candyman. Now they may not directly be abusing the Black community, but they're abusing the Black community in certain ways, whether it's the privilege that they have in society, whether it's them enjoying the gentrification of Black communities, like that kind of stuff. So she's the one who called him up, but she called him up in order to handle the situation around her because of the abuse that she had experienced from the cops.
I like that. Preach, girl, preach. I don't know if that was stand up in court, but that's a very good argument.
I mean, is Candyman ever gonna get caught enough to be going to court? I'm just saying, Candyman ain't getting arrested now.
But then it takes me back to the two random kids in the movie. They did nothing wrong and they were Black. They just did a stupid TikTok challenge. Did they have to
No,
die?
but you also, so the challenge, it's also the challenge, right? So you doing a stupid challenge doesn't take away from the fact that you did the challenge. But with her, there was a purpose to her doing the challenge. When she said his name in the mirror, there was a purpose. There was a reason why she was calling him. Those kids were just calling him just to call him because they wanted to test out the theory, and they tested it out, and look what happened.
And okay, and then going back to that, so Brian, that's his name, right? The creepy laundromat the guy.
William.
William, see, I'm horrible. William, he lived to tell the tale. Why? Because he took the candy and he wasn't scared of Candyman, or he didn't tell the cops on, like that was one of the things I
Because
didn't
he was not a
understand.
threat to the Black community.
Oh, but all the other kids that he killed, oh, but he didn't really kill the kids.
Yeah, you remember it wasn't
Yeah,
actually him. It wasn't actually
yeah,
him that killed those kids.
I remember. Okay, so yeah, I overall, I guess that brings us to the end. Is there anything else you have, or any other comments you have about Candyman?
No, except for it, that was a disgusting, disgusting wound that he had.
It was so gross.
It was nasty.
That's why I'm just like, she had to be done not to notice it, and it got bigger. Like she noticed it the first time, and like you said, I guess because they were closer and they were at the point where they were still canoodling and hugging and all that kind of stuff, and they still had physical contact. But towards the end, it was they were more distant. But just looking at that big gaping wound on somebody's hand would gross me the fuck out. Like if I saw that just on
Nasty.
anybody in the grocery store, I'd be like, "What did you touch?" So I'll know not to touch it. Like it was just that gross. But yeah. So overall, how would you rate Candyman?
I'm gonna give Candyman 3 popcorns, 3 full popcorns. What kind of throws me off is I enjoyed it because it had the creep factor, so it gave me the same feelings as when I watched the originals. And I watched the originals as a child, so that means I was even more creeped out. I was more scared. But for this one, I still was creeped out. Where, like I said, I'll never try that challenge. But the storyline was disjointed. The script was very, very disjointed. There were the dots were not connecting on how you got to the point where he's the one who ultimately becomes Candyman. So because of that, I had to take 2 popcorns away. So 3 popcorns because ultimately I enjoyed watching it when we went to see it. What about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm rating it just a little bit higher than you. Giving it 3.25, and for some of the same reasons you said. I and I wish it would have been a little bit more traditionally scary. I love what they did with the how they interwove the gentrification storyline, and they didn't just kind of beat you over your face with this a bad thing. Um, you know, so I did like that, but I also feel the disjointedness of it was a bit much. And like I said, there's so many ways you could have connected. Like I understood him becoming the new Candyman, like I said, with the bee bite or the bee sting. I got that, you know. But then when you tried to sell me on the rest, I was like, huh, you know. So that didn't make as much sense to me. But overall, I did enjoy it. And it is a mind fuck when you think about it, because I was like, yeah. Um, and of course, like I said, being a monkey paw in a Jordan Peele production, it's going to have some type of social justice issue thrown in there, which I appreciate. And sometimes that really is the horror of society. So I get that. I dig it. And, like I said, big ups to Nia Acosta, who directing wise did her thing with this. And the stars, the up and coming stars, everyone keep your eyes peeled for Tiana Paris, coming up through Marvel, MCU, and some other things. Yaya Abdul Mateen, who's also going to be in the new Matrix. So, keep your eyes out
Yeah,
for them.
he's more. What is it, Morbius?
Yeah, I think so. The new Morbius.
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep your eyes peeled. They are definitely on our ones, or my ones to watch list. So great job. Well, that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Please be sure to listen, like, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and or Spotify podcasts. You can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment and pop culture news, as well as other amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at the Popcorn Wind Down. That's it. That's all I got. Pop, pop, and pop. It's been a long week. My popcorn popper is not working right. And I'm waiting on Trevor and them to get that subpoena over to you so you can do your job. But like I said,
Ooh.
they got a lot going on. It's a shame I gotta sue her to do her job to get me my sound effect.
We're gonna have people think that they actually gonna get it done.
Don't make me come after your millions, your billions, your trillions.
Ooh, you saying I got Jeff Bezos money? Oh shoot.
Yeah, you got them Bezos bucks. So thank you as always, and be sure to join us next week when we discuss the final season, or volume as they call it, of Netflix's hit Dear White People. I'm excited. You excited?
I am. I haven't have you watched it yet?
I've started.
Okay, I haven't started yet. So I'm a little behind on that, but I am excited to see how they're gonna end it.
All right. Well, tune in next week to find out, y'all. And until next time, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.